Hello and welcome to Analysis with me, Oliver McTernan. The row over whether or not some Birmingham schools have been taken over by extremists goes on. Governors and many parents continue to deny the accusations while we wait for the results of the Ofsted report into these allegations, expected to be released in early June. The government, however, is said to be already considering possible response to the allegations of extremism, and it seems that ministers have already approached teachers of successful schools and academy trusts about taking over the schools that are subject to these allegations. But what has been the impact on the communities of the area and the ongoing allegation regarding these schools? Well, with me in the studio to discuss this is Professor Gus John from the Institute of Education at the University of London, Masood Shadjari, who is chair of the Islamic Human Rights Commission. And on the phone, we are joined by the MP for Perry Barr constituency in Birmingham, Khalid Mahmood, and a parent from one of the schools, the Old No School Academy in Birmingham, Balal Balali. Well, welcome to you all. First of all, though, we will take a look at this report.
Parents at one of the schools in Birmingham accused of being taken over by Muslim hardliners are uniting to show support for the school. They have set up a parents' organisation and began a petition backing the academy, signed by over 140 people.
Old No Academy is one of over 20 schools being investigated in Birmingham. I came here to speak to some of the parents and teachers to hear what they thought about the allegations.
If this did take place, then yes, I personally will want an investigation, and I want to know if leadership did do this, or if the governing body actually did do this. So I asked my children said no. I asked the parents of the children that were in my child's class. They said no. Then I investigated who made these allegations, and I found it was just like one or two out of the school of 600, one or two parents had made these allegations.
Did any head teacher, any governor ever ask you to do something that you didn't feel comfortable doing or impose any sort of value on you?
No, never. If they did, we would go up to them and ask them which is right, which is wrong. But they would never tell us to do this or do that.
Allegations include banning of Christmas and forcing children to learn Arabic.
Another report came out where Christmas was cancelled, children weren't allowed to celebrate Christmas, and I found that really ironic because I actually spent the weekend making a Christmas dome with my child.
I found Old No Academy has been all about progression of the children, reading, writing, maths, nothing else, nothing worried about RE or agendas or nothing like that. So personally for me, this school is nothing to hide, nothing to worry about.
Birmingham Perry Barr's Labour MP Khalid Mahmood remains concerned about the issue of radicalisation in Birmingham schools. In a recent interview to the BBC, he said,
"They have basically realised that they are now being focused on, and from that point of view, they have quite significantly changed the attitudes and the way that they were teaching, the way that they were holding assemblies, the way that they were having different lessons, the way that children were being segregated in class."
The controversy into the Birmingham schools began after a letter was leaked to the Education Department, which revealed an alleged Islamist plot to take over English schools. The document, now widely believed to be a hoax, sparked investigations by the City Council and education authorities into over 20 academies in Birmingham, Bradford, Manchester and more recently Leicester. Allegations included praising of Al-Qaeda members during assemblies and forcing girls to wear hijabs.
I can speak for all the schools that we run, and there's no truth to any of these allegations. These allegations have been made by people who are anonymous, and their sources have not been cited. So these allegations are completely malicious and completely baseless from my point of view.
Governors and parents at Parkview and Old Now Academy acknowledge there has been a change in the way the school is run. However, they stress this has been in the interest of the children.
At the time we joined here, it wasn't a comfortable school to work in. It wasn't a comfortable school to come as a governor because the majority cultural and ethnic background of the pupils wasn't recognised.
The quality of the education at that time wasn't very high. For example, my child, although we speak only English at home, he was when he came to the school, he was automatically registered as a child that has English as an additional language, just because he spoke English with an accent.
The school went into special measures in 1996, and as a result of that, something drastic had to be done to instigate school improvement. And we took it on ourselves to take on that work and do it. Part of that was to recognise the cultural and ethnic background of the pupils.
Small Heath is one of the areas with the highest unemployment levels in the UK, with long-term youth unemployment up 57% in the last year. However, students at Old Now Academy have been leaving Year 6 with above-average standards, according to last year's Ofsted report.
And who's representing us parents? I at first thought it was maybe myself with this idea. I approached one or two parents and they were feeling the same. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 went to like in numbers of 100, 140 parents. I took this forward to the governing body, I explained to them, I go, we're an association now, we need to speak out. We parents do not feel that our voices are being heard.
The education watchdog Ofsted and the Department of Education are expected to deliver reports in June on the next steps for schools which have faced these allegations. As authorities predict a media firestorm on the back of the reports, communities are organising to take the future of their children into their own hands. Flaminia Giambalvo, Islam Channel.
Gus, leaving aside whether or not there is any substance to these allegations, what impact do you think these inquiries will have on the schools concerned?
Well, I think it is quite extraordinary that the government should react in the way that it has to a set of anonymous reports about what is alleged to be happening in a school, when it is perfectly possible for Ofsted to send inspectors to visit and drop in and see what's going on any one day in any one week, where the local authority has the power to have advisors go in and ask questions about the way the school is run, the impact of the governing body on day-to-day practice and what have you. What is sinister about that is this. Any group of people, maliciously minded, could take it upon themselves to play on the government's concerns about terrorism and the prevent agenda and all of that, and concoct stories about a school that they don't like because the composition of the school is mainly South Asian or Muslim or whatever.
But what do you think the immediate impact will be now on the teaching staff, on the pupils, on the parents?
I think it's going to be pretty demoralizing. And more than that, it is very divisive of communities. So you put certain people under the microscope, you suggest that they are somehow or other implicated in promoting terrorism, and you therefore destabilize the community and the sense of cohesion that there is amongst people.
Masood, you must be concerned from a human rights angle on this.
Yes, absolutely. I think also we need to take it into the concept of what is happening overall. I mean, day in, day out, Muslim community is being targeted. One day on halal meat, another as a terrorist. And, you know, to actually, you couldn't pick up the elements of these scenario to be more damaging. Taking Peter Clark, the ex-deputy commissioner who was the head of terrorism, to investigate this school, those connotations that there is terrorism going on. And, you know, all these, as it was said, on a false allegation. And really, I think, you know, not even taking into account the fact that this has been a great achievement for this school to actually achieve much better standards, and we should celebrate that.
Have any of the parents been in touch with your organisation expressing concern?
Yes, I mean, parents, we have had a number of phone calls, parents feeling that they're voiceless. I mean, they are not really being consulted in this. You know, the future of their children, they're concerned. I mean, every parent, we recently did a survey, what do Muslim parents want for their children? Overwhelming majority of parents want better education. Yeah. It doesn't matter what background they come. And here, this education was being provided. They were being taken into a sort of establishment, i.e., you know, more input by the community, which is all sort of thing that we trying to celebrate. And here we come down on them. It's almost like saying you're damned if you don't get involved in the education of your children. And if you do, then they say, why you're getting involved? You're trying to turn an extremism.
Well, Khaled, you've been hearing those reactions from our guests in the studio. You're the MP for the constituency in which some of these schools are operating. Do you share these concerns expressed here?
Well, I don't. I'm particularly concerned about the professor's line of thought for somebody who's supposed to be an academic, and to make these sort of assertions. I find that very troubling.
Which ones particularly? Which assertions?
All your assertions, basically, and the way that you've gone about this. There has been an issue which we're trying to get to the bottom of and trying to resolve, and there have been a significant number of teachers and Muslim teachers and head teachers who have come forward and have given evidence and spoken, and certainly have spoken to me. Number of governors that have spoken to me. What you need to do before we start making allegations of this sort is to look at what the issue is, what was happening in the schools, what was happening with the governing bodies, and how the governing bodies were stacked up in order to push out other governors, how head teachers were being pushed out and other people brought in. If parents are concerned, I'm concerned about education for our children. I've always been concerned about education in the inner city of Birmingham for the education of our children. I want to see the best possible standards there. But when there are people who have used their position and influence to do this, that is where I draw a line, and that is what has been happening significantly.
The question...
A number of head teachers, including a Muslim head teacher, and the way she was pushed out by the governing body, where none of the governors who came onto that governing body were elected. They were pushed on by Tahir Alam as the Muslim governor coordinator onto that, whether they lived in the area or not. They were pushed into those positions.
I'd like to bring in a parent, but first, Gus wants to ask you something there. So.
Well, yes, I mean, the question that your comments raise is this. If these head teachers and whoever else have now come forward to give evidence in this inquiry, why did it take anonymous people to write stuff that could be seen as provocative in order that they should come forward and say what they have to say? Why couldn't they, in the normal run of things, register their concerns with the local authority or with the Secretary of State or Ofsted and do it in a manner that is not not so explosive? That's the question.
If I can answer the question, please.
Please, yeah.
Good question. What had happened, and I'm still getting to the bottom of this, is that all of those people that had left, they were given a certain sort of payout, which included their confidentiality and a gagging clause. I've got now confirmation from the government to stop that. I'm in the process of I've had a confirmation verbally from the City Council. I'm waiting for a written confirmation from the City Council. So those people that were put in that position, that they could not be. Most people are afraid that they've lost their jobs, and any little money they'd got from that, they'd lose that by coming forward and stating who they were and giving that evidence. That is now being lifted, and we'll see more of that.
Bilal, I hope you've been following this. Now, you as a parent are obviously concerned about what is going on. Is your concern felt by many of the parents in the school that your children go to?
Firstly, thank you for having me on. My daughter's at Old No Academy. We had a meeting there last week with all the parents. Now, there's about 500 parents at that school. We've had over 160 of those parents sign a petition in support of the school and the running of the school. Last year, before coming on to that point, just to pick up on a couple of points before me. First, I find Mr. Mahmood very entertaining. It's interesting how he's saying, they've been given a gagging order. That comes as a result of a dismissal where you then go to the employment tribunal and then you reach a settlement. And one of the conditions of the settlement is for us to pay you out, you have to agree not to disclose the details of what happened. It's perfectly within that person's entitlement to refuse that settlement and to go ahead with a full hearing if they are competent enough, they're going to win, or if there's no other reason restricting them from doing so. So I mean, it's a very disingenuous allegation made or claim made there by Mr. Mahmoud. Secondly, I mean, he's spoken about getting to the bottom of this and resolving this. Now, from the offset, he's been at the vanguard of attacking these schools, attacking these governors, attacking these head teachers, without getting to the bottom of it. He's had a few allegations, and without these allegations being properly investigated, without reaching a proper conclusion, he's already drumming up what the conclusion is. He's already shouting from the top of the rooftops as to, we have to get rid of these Wahhabis, and this was a word that he's going to use. I mean, and he's spoken about Tahir Alam. Tahir Alam is just a concerned parent who saw how badly these schools were failing in Birmingham, especially Parkview School. I mean, it was ridiculous. You had one child out of 99 who passed their maths GCSE. I mean, that's abysmal. I mean,
Bilal,
is this really the UK where you can have one child pass an exam? So he thought, we've got to put an end to this.
Bilal,
and he brought on. Sorry, let me finish, please. He brought on governors. Now Mr. Mahmoud says, these governors weren't elected. No governors are ever elected. You propose to be on the board of governors, and you're accepted. There is no election that happens. So I mean, Mr. Mahmoud has to get his facts right before accusing others. And Professor Gus, I have to totally agree with what you said. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Hala, do you want to come back on that? Because the accusation you heard that you haven't got all your facts right.
Well, I have far more right than he has. For starters, all of these people who'd left the schools were given, they hadn't gone to tribunals. That's why they were given these settlements. Had they gone to tribunals, they would have got
that's ridiculous.
But obviously that's a fact we'll have to agree to disagree on because we have no evidence.
You tell me how many had gone there, Bilal.
Look.
Right? None of them had gone to tribunal. They were paid off, and that's why the ganging order came in, because the additional payment that was given to those people.
Well, can we leave that there, because we have no evidence to suggest either way. I'd like to bring Gus back in here.
I want to make two comments.
Secondly, just ask Bilal one question, please. If you can tell me how many parents turned up at that meeting that he had.
500 was the figure given.
No, the 500 says this is children that go to school. How many parents turned up?
Bilal, do you wish to answer that?
Yeah, I'm very happy to answer. There are 500 parents at the school, and over 70 parents turned up. Only one parent opposed what we said. But more importantly, the petition is what's more significant.
Good. I'd like to bring Gus in now. Please, Gus, you're at a point there.
I want to make 2 points. The first is that even if what the MP is saying is correct, it is still a pretty cack-handed and irregular way of dealing with those matters. That's the first point. The second point is this, and it's a much deeper point. The government can't pick and choose which parents it wants to enjoy the powers that it gives to parents in relation to schools. It can't pick and choose which parents could exercise parental choice in those particular matters. And if you remove the responsibilities from local education authorities to have some degree of control and organization around that, then what you have is a kind of anarchy whereby certain groups of parents could choose that this is what we want to do with our school and others not. They might be fundamentalist Roman Catholics, they might be fundamentalist Pentecostals or whatever. And therefore, this is a complete red herring when it comes to examining the real issues here, which are about parental choice, which are about how schools are run, which are about how local authorities can or cannot intervene in situations involving individual schools.
Harald, I think Gus makes some very good points there, and in particular, it's the way the government has chosen to respond to these accusations is the key issue.
I don't agree with the appointment of Peter Clark. And I've said that and I made that clear in the press. I don't agree with that. That gives the wrong connotation of what's going on. I don't agree with the Secretary of State for doing that, and I've made that very clear because of the connotation it gives out. But what Gus is saying about choosing these governors and having the rights, the schools, the head, didn't have that choice. And that's what the complaint is. That's why you've got now over 200 complaints to the City Council. And that's why the governance unit is suspended, because they didn't have that choice. because those people were coming on without any having real connections and being really elected as parent governors to make those choices for those children. That's what the real issue is.
Nasrin?
Look, we already established that no governors are elected. So, put this thing of election to one side. And really what you're saying, Brother Khaled, is it really doesn't sound right. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And I don't see why it should happen here. You're really lying into a sort of conspiracy which has been promoted through tabloids. I mean, really, the way that tabloids have got involved in this and leading this whole witch hunt, it really is disgraceful. And, Henry Jackson Society is also very much in-depth involved in this. And Khaled, I believe that you're advisor to Henry Jackson Society. Is that true?
Henry Jackson Society involved in this?
Yes, but I think that's to our present discussion.
No, but
not
I think it's very important that we all need to sort of put our cards on the table. I think the reality is that there is a concerted effort to undermine involvement of certain sections of community in the education of their children.
Right, Khaled, I'd like to bring Bilal back in, but first of all, I'd like you to make a quick comment on that last remark from Masood.
Just to put just another heading, it's got nothing to do with Henry Jackson Society. They're no way involved in this, nor should they be involved in this. And this is an issue for the people of Birmingham, for the politicians in Birmingham, for the authorities in government to control that. And we're all trying to get...
Are you advisor to...
Steps that the government have taken on this needs to be dealt with. And I've been making that representation. Where it's been wrong, I've criticised people who've made the wrong decisions, and I continue to do that.
Bilal, I'd like to come back to you as a parent. Are you encouraged by the discussion you've heard so far, or what are your feelings?
I mean, I think your panel, Masood and Professor Gus, are reflecting the feelings of the parents of Old North School and possibly the other schools as well. But our concern is what we're hearing from Mr. Mahmood, which is what's been sprawled out in the newspapers. These were failing schools that all of a sudden are doing remarkably well. Birmingham City Council recently are having their investigation, and what they concluded was that there is no Islamist agenda. And you heard that from Shabina in your earlier report, who's involved with the Old North Parents Association with myself and a few others. And that what the only issue is that there are serious HR related matters. So nothing to do with Islam, nothing to do with radicalisation. And it's interesting, every time you hear about politicians speak about radicalisation, they make themselves look like fools. We had Boris Johnson do it a few weeks ago, when he's speaking about, taking kids away from radicalised parents. And he's saying, what happened with the drummer Rigby can never be allowed to happen. Those were reverts. I mean, their parents weren't Muslims. So, politicians have to get their facts right and stop accusing others of not getting their facts right.
Well,
get the facts right and then speak out.
That's all the time we have for in this part of the programme, but do join us in the next section where we look more closely at those. Has it got to do with Islam and radicalisation? Those are questions we can explore further. Thank you.